All right, welcome everyone to SafuLane, and how we do it is very simple. Today we are having our class section, and our topic is supply and demand. Our coach for tonight is Crypto Cover, and if you've missed any of our videos, do well to just check on our previous YouTube videos. We are going to be learning quite a lot of things from these, videos. So, Crypto Cover, are we good to go?
Yes, sure.
All right, let's have it, man.
Okay, so welcome everybody to today's session on supply and demand. If we have been following up, we would know that we have actually been having sessions talking about trading and how we can actually scale up our trading skill. We've talked about different topics from market structure, support and resistance, chart patterns, and many others. But when we had the topic on market structure, you would understand that there are some important things to note, and we can't actually understand them if we don't talk about supply and demand. So today we'll be introducing the concept of demand and supply, and in the next session we'll be having a live session whereby I'll be sharing my charts with you all, and we'll talk more on supply and demand. So quickly, if we are talking about supply and demand, what can we see on supply and demand? We will understand that from our economics, supply and demand is more of like selling and buying. Yeah, it's more of like selling and buying, more like accumulation and what distribution. Now, supply and demand in trading, or supply and demand zones in trading, are actually zones or areas where there are a lot of market participants execute their orders. Yeah, and this particular supply and demand zones, these areas are places where large volumes are provided by the others, because at this particular zone, when price gets to a supply zone or a demand zone, there are usually sharp market movements, or probably an upward movement or downward movement from these particular areas. Now, this particular supply and demand zones actually provides excellent market movement. If you actually make your predictions right and you reacted to these predictions you have made, you see that when price actually gets to this particular aspect, you see that we have a lot of, what's it called? We have price moving massively or running up or down. So tonight, what I'll just do is I'll be sharing little notes on supply and demand before we actually have the live session on the next session. Now, supply zones, right? When we are talking about supply zones alone, we'll see that we understand that supply zones are actually found in a what? In a downtrend. Yeah, when we are trading, or when we observe our market structure well, our valid supply zones are what? Are found in a downtrend when the market is what? Is actually bearish. Yeah, because these are places whereby we can find what? We can find sell zones. And what are sell zones? Sell zones are just more like what? Places where we sell. And now, this demand and supply, or when we talk about supply are more of like what? Are more of like resistance zones. Resistance zones. Now, when we talk about demand are actually what? Are actually found on what? In an uptrend. That is valid demand zones. And when we are talking about demand zones are places whereby buy orders are being placed, and it's as simple as what? ABC. So quickly, I'll be sharing an infographic on supply zone, and I'll use it to explain more on supply zone. So let me quickly share the infographic. on supply zone. Do I have it here? All right, I have it here. Let me quickly send it. All right, now when we take a look at what I just dropped now on supply zone, we will notice that I actually identify what supply zones is. And in the definition, I say supply zones are area where banks and institutions are playing a large number of cells or cell position at a particular zone. And you see that at every area where I indicated a supply zone or where I highlighted a box, you see that when price actually tapped on that point, you see that there is a what? There's a very large or massive decline from that area. Any aspect where price taps on that box, there's a what? There's a very, very large decline. And those are what? Supply zones. Supply zones, and that is how supply zones work. So quickly, I'll be sharing another infographics on demand zones. Demand zones. Demand zones are whereby orders are being placed. Yeah, very, very simple. Very, very simple. Demand and supply are just very, very simple concepts on trading. And when you are trading with demand and supply, you tend to have more accuracy. Though it's not every demand or supply zones that actually work out perfectly. At times you have where when price will just come and invalidate your supply or demand zones. Now, if you take a look at this infographics I shared on demand zone, you see that I highlighted it and I was like, demand zones are area where banks and institutions are placing a large number of buy positions at a particular price zone. Now you can actually ignore the place I said banks and institutions. You can replace it with traders. Yeah, you can replace it with what traders. Now you can see that at every aspect that I highlighted a box, those particular places, when price gets to that point, there is usually a very huge accumulation or a bounce upward. It actually means a lot of people are actually buying at that point. Now, let me still break down this concept of supply and demand with economics. Now, when we talk about a supply, now supply just means selling, right? Now, you know that when we are talking about selling, we sell at what? We sell at premium and what take our profits at discount. What does it mean? If you actually have a product, you know you will not want to sell that product at what at a discount price because you want to make gain. So you actually allow that product or that asset to what to get to its peak or a very very high price that you gained some profits, not the amount you actually buy from. Now when that particular asset gets to a point where you've generated profit, what would you do? You start selling off, and that is just what supply is. You can see on the supply picture when price actually gets to a point, then it starts declining aggressively. It means people are selling off and taking profit. Now, when we talk about demand zone is more like accumulation. And now, when we are talking about demand, it's more of like you buying low and selling high. Now, if you are buying low, you have to wait for price to what increase or get more expensive before you actually sell off to make profit. And that is where this demand comes in. And now when we are talking about demand, you don't want to buy at an expensive price. You have to wait for price to what? To come to discount or a discounted price. And that is why you see when price comes down and gets to a demand or this box I highlighted in the demand aspect, you see that people start buying because the price is at what is at discount. If you should go through the video on market structure, you see how I explain the concept of how price moves. Now, if you relate it to demand and supply, you'll be able to to get a grasp of it. Now, quickly, I'll be sending more or little infos to in addition to whatever I have talked about on demand and supply. Now, if you understand demand and supply well, I don't think you really have any issues with uh some aspect of trading. Most people actually, or a lot of traders you see out there, they still trade the concept of supply and demand. Now, I want you to understand something, that supply and demand zones are actually identified as consolidation areas at what structure high and low points. If you should go through the previous session on market structure, you understand uh what we mean by structure highs and lows. So quickly, I'll drop more notes on supply and demand, and I won't take much time any longer. I'll just allow everyone to actually go through it, and then in the next session we'll dive into the charts, because I want us to understand the concept before I actually dive into it. It's very important for us to understand the introduction. It won't actually make any sense when I just come and start saying much and using some terms that you don't understand on demand and supply. This might actually get you confused, and that is why we have to introduce the topic. So before I actually continue, is there anything confusing as regards the infographics I've shared on demand and supply? Is there anything confusing, anything at all, or do I have anybody with question before I actually proceed? Anybody at all, if you have anything on the infographics that I've dropped.
I think we're still enjoying what you have for us.
Okay, so let me proceed since there is nobody with question. Now, if you have been following up, you see that these topics, or everything we have been discussing about, you see that these particular topics are actually what they are interrelated. We started with candlestick anatomy, we moved to candlestick patterns. After candlestick patterns, we were talking about chart patterns. After chart patterns, we moved to support and resistance. Now, after we talked about support and resistance, we talked about market structure. Now, we are now talking about supply and demand. If you should pay close attention, you see that support and resistance and supply and demand are almost working hand to hand. Supply and demand is more of like an advanced concept of what support and resistance, because you see that supplies are more of like what resistance zones, and now when we talk about demand are more of like what support. And what do we call support? Support is a point where price gets to and what starts bouncing up or start gaining momentum. It means what selling pressure has been reduced, or sellers are going out of the market already. Now, when we talk about what resistance, resistance is a point where there's a huge rejection. So, if you actually follow up with the concept of support and resistance, and you combine it with the aspect of supply and demand, I think you should be able to, at this point, you should be able to start carrying out your own analysis with everything that we've been providing. All the recordings have been provided on the YouTube channel, and so far I've been expecting more questions as regarding all the sessions that we've been holding, but so far it seems everybody is actually following up and there is nothing. Though it's actually very, very simple, but it's not as easy as you think. You might go to your chart and you want to find out these supply and demand zones, and you might not easily get them. Now, just as this picture that SafuLane just dropped, you see that that supply zone, actually that price is rejecting from, is more of what? Is more of a resistance zone. So supply zone is actually equals to what? Resistance. Supply zone is equals to what? Resistance zone. But now supply zone is not found. Okay, I'll answer this question now. So now supply zone is more of what? An advanced concept of what? Resistance. Because and now supply zone is not just found at a point. Supply, when you draw your support and resistance line, you just draw it at a point at a significant or key level. Now, supply zones are not at key levels. They are found at what? At structural points. Probably, let's say price is in a downtrend, and when we talked about downtrend, that is when we talk about market structure, and we talk about price having series of what? Lower highs, lower lows. Now, at lower highs, this is where we find what? Supply zones, points where you what? You sell down from. Supply zones are not just found at what? At a point, or at a key level, or at a significant point, but you can find it at everywhere, or more multiple zones in what? In the market. Now, quickly, I would let me try to identify something from this picture that SafuLane just dropped now on uh supply zone. Then I would answer more questions on supply zone. I want to highlight some stuffs very quickly, very quickly. I want to be quick with it. I want to be quick with it. Just keep dropping your questions. I'll answer them immediately. I'll answer them immediately. All right. Okay. So here is it. Now, this picture I sent to the channel now, you see that the place I marked with green lines, you see that when price actually pushed up to those points, price is actually what? Dropping or declining aggressively. Those are what? More of supply zones too. Those are more of what? Supply zones. So you can see the little difference that is having with what? Support and resistance. And that is how it works. Now look at the demand zones too on this picture that is being dropped. You see that the demand zones are more of like what? Your support zones, but they are not found what? At key levels. They can be seen at what? Structural points. Okay, so this question, please, does supply and demand have effect on market volatility? Now, price movement is very, very fractal. Price does not stay at a point. Supply and demand have effects on what? Market volatility actually, because it's where people are buying and selling from zones. And these places that people are buying and selling from, there are huge volatilities at those points, meaning there's money, a lot of liquidity, a lot of orders at those points. And price is actually attracted to where money is. Price is attracted to where money is, liquidity. Price is always attracted to where liquidity is. So supply and demand zones actually have effects because price tends to move towards the supply or demand zones, and that is how it works. So I don't know if anybody has any other question before I actually wrap it up.
Okay, so I'll be asking my own question, Crypto Kaba. So,
All right.
the question is, what are they and why are supply and demand helpful in trading? Why are they
All right.
helpful in trading? So, why do I need to consider the supply and demand zone when I'm trading or while I'm on trade?
Okay, thank you very much. Now, when we are talking about supply and demand, why you need to consider these zones while you are trading? You can actually be trading, and when you have the okay, when you have ideas on what supply and demand, and you know that okay, this point supply and demand are actually more of what possible base zones. And when we talk about possible base zones, these are actually strong zones that we have what reversals and what and price push-ups. Now, when you actually understand the concept of demand and supply in your trading and the importance of it, you'll be able to have more precise entries and exits because you'll be looking to what? You'll be looking to take profit at what? at your supply zones, and you'll be what looking towards. If you are selling, you'll be looking towards to close your positions at demand zones, because you know that these are high volatility zones. Even though those zones might not hold, you see that there are usually what huge reactions from those points, because the volatility or liquidity that are resting at these what demand or supply zones. So it is very, very important to take note of these demand and supply zones. It is very important. I just saw a question now on the channel. Does supply zone always in resistance zone? Yes. Now, if you actually carry out your uh supply and you mark out your supply zone, your demand zone, and your support and resistance. Now, I there was a time I was telling someone and telling that person some logics guiding this supply and demand zones. Now, when you mark your support and resistance zones, supply and demand zones that are close to your support and resistance are having more like high probability supply and demand zones. Though these supply and demand zones, if we are talking about supply and demand zones, it's not complete when we don't talk about other blocks. They are what we call other blocks in trading. So when you combine the aspect of other blocks and supply and demand, why do we have to talk about other blocks? Other blocks are where we find what these are supply and demand zones. Though it's not just that other blocks are supply and demand zones, we have other zones where price reacts from, and these are actually uh, supply and demand zones too. But when we talk about other blocks are more of like engulfing candles, and engulfing candles, both bullish and bearish engulfing candles, are usually having what? Having liquidity or huge volume resting at that point. Because if you should go through uh the when we talk about candlestick patterns and we talk about uh engulfing candles, both bullish and bearish, you see that when this pattern is formed, we do have a huge displacement to the upside or downside, creating what? Leaving some form of liquidity below. And at the long run, you see that price coming back to that point. Now, take a look at this infographic that crypto will drop. This one that is having trading using supply and demand zones. You see that that point that is named demand. You see that at the last point, you see that price created what? An engulfing candle, a bullish engulfing. And at the long run, price came back to that point, tapped on it, and moved to the upside. So these are more, if you should see a, what is it called, a support zone, and you see a supply close to it or an order block close to it, these zones are more effective. I'm coming, I want to actually highlight the bullish engulfing. Good. I am sending it into the group now. Now look at that particular point here where I marked. You see that the place I cycled is actually what? A bullish engulfing. And after the bullish engulfing was formed, what do we have? We have a massive push to the upside. But at the long run, price still came back to that point to tap at the point and still continue its upward movement. Now where price came back into to tap into and move up is called what? A demand zone. A demand a demand. And that particular zone, that's our engulfing candle. You know, the engulfing candle, which is the bullish engulfing, has already served its purpose by pushing price upward. After it has pushed price upward, it's after it has served its purpose as what a bullish engulfing, it turns into what an order block. And just with the name order block, what does it mean? It means a place where orders are what? Are stacked on. There are a lot of orders at that particular point. Now, if that orders are actually much, it means there are a lot of what? Volumes resting at that point. And when price comes into that point, you see that there is a what? Huge displacement. Like if price just come into that point, you see how price will react aggressively. Like price will push up immediately because what? There's a lot of people's orders at that point. And now it means what? sellers are leaving the market, buyers are coming in aggressively at that demand zone. Now, if it's a supply zone and price pushed up to that point, you see that price would what? Start falling aggressively from that point. Let me send the one for a supply zone. I'm coming, let me mark it out. All right. This second picture I just sent now, you see that place I marked in green. Look at how price reacted from that point. There's what? Huge rejection from that point. Meaning there's what? There's a lot of what? Orders pending at that point. A lot of sellers at that point. And that is how it works. It's very simple. Now, this second question, is the supply zone good for entry? Yeah, supply and demand zones are good for entry only if those supply and demand have met uh, the their possible criteria. I know supply and demand have their own checklist too, and they have what makes them valid. It's not every other block or it's not every demand and supply zones that are valid in the market. You can't just see a demand zone or a supply zone and pick it up at that point. No, you can pick it up, and when price gets to that point, you get a very little reaction, more like a little push, meaning there are not a lot of words. How would I put it? There are not a lot of sellers or buyers at that point. So price will just react a little, then continues in its direction. Let's say if price is dropping towards a demand zone, if we have less buyers at that demand zone, price will just react a bit at that point, and what it just move up, then it will keep selling down aggressively, taking out what? Taking out that demand zone, and that is how it works. Though there are criteria to what was it called, to check out if a supply and demand zone is actually what is actually valid or not. Now, let me quickly give one criteria of why a demand or supply zone is valid. Now, a supply or demand zone is valid if it actually breaks structure. When we are actually talking about market structure in the previous session, I was saying something like if before we can say price is in an uptrend or a downtrend, it needs to take the previous what, take out the previous higher high and create a new higher high, or it needs to take out what, the lower low that was created before and create a new what, lower low. Now take for example this picture that I want to send. I want to highlight a what, a valid demand zone. Now okay, I'm marking it already. Now if you should take a look at what I just sent now, you see that place I marked from your left. You see that there's a place I marked with a green line and I put like a positive mark on it. You see that price is in an uptrend and price broke structure at that point. Let me draw it again so we can actually see. You see that price broke the previous words, higher high. Price took out the previous higher high, creating a new higher high. Then what? See how the market structure works. Now look at this new picture. You see that price took out what, the previous higher high, came down again, then push up, and that is how it works. A valid demand or supply must have what, taken out a what's it called, broke structure either to the upside or the downside. Then we can say that particular demand or supply is what, high probable or high probability demand or supply, and that is how it works. So I won't be talking further. I'll just be stopping here. Then in the next session, the next class session, which is next week, yeah, I think that should be next week, We'll be talking about what? We'll be talking about uh supply and demand, and I'll be sharing my screen. I'll be showing you everything it entails on a live chat, which is next week Tuesday. Yeah, next week Tuesday, I'll be showing you everything it entails. So I don't know if anybody has any further question before I round up this session.
All right. So if we have anyone with any question, all you can do is try to unmute your mic. Then we'll be ready for you to ask your question. But if you feel like, okay, it is very, very much better for you to drop your question in the group, then there is nothing stopping you from doing that. Just drop your questions and we'll attend to it. So, Peterson is so much. Very, very excited that we have this topic going on, but we're unable to hear your voice. Can you just say something, Peterson? We are still on the call, but if you are in a very, noisy area, then it's understandable. Peterson, are you still with us?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm with
All
you.
right, good evening, Peterson.
Yeah, thank you. I was actually having dinner, so I had to excuse myself because of the session. I'm really, really happy, and I'm learning. I just joined for the first time, actually, the sessions for the first time. So I learned some few things. I really want to appreciate you guys, and I believe I won't miss other session. But for now, if you ask me, I don't really have a question because I'm new to this, trying to understand the terms and all that. So I'll be honest with you. Just want to appreciate you for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Peterson. And I think for that base, you might just try to check on our previous YouTube videos. Then I'm definitely sure you're still going to be learning even more. So, Crypto Kaba, I don't think we have anyone having any question for you tonight. And I've asked my own particular question that I have for you. But thank you so much for taking us on this particular topic. I believe by next week, when we have watched this video, we'll be able to have more questions to ask, because next week is going to be more of practical on the supply and demand. We are going to be seeing real life chats. And for you to get prepared, please do watch our previous videos. And not to waste our time, because today is Friday, we all know about that. We're going to be giving you the real quick news on what we are having on Sunday. So on Sunday, we are going to be having our Twitter space on Sunday, and I'm going to be dropping the link, and also I'm going to be announcing the winners. Yeah, the winners of our BTT token giveaway. So if you find your ID as part of the winners of of the BTT token giveaway, do well to just react to the message we are going to be posting in the group. So just do well. We've picked 5 winners who is going to be winning the BTT token. I think the buy trade team allocated $100 worth of BTT tokens to someone in our group in particular. So if you have, we've just picked the UID randomly, and if you found your UID there, so just just signify or react to the message. So $100 worth of BTT token will be distributed equally among the winners. So I've sent it to the group. So congratulations if you are seeing your name there. So your UID. So to check your UID, I think your UID is the same as your referral ID. So I think so each winner is going to be receiving most likely $20 worth of BET tokens. And we asked on that particular AMA section, your BET token can be withdrawn or converted to USDT. So congratulations to everyone who have made it to get that that token. So this is how we do it. We are going to be bringing even more interesting platform to our exchange to give us reward. So this is just like the beginning of our journey when it comes to collaborating with other platform. So we'll be bringing them, and you being part of SAFUU, you're definitely going to be benefiting from this. So except from that, we personally we have our own earning program, such as the quiz and earn, the question and answer. So you can just see everything on on our agenda. So I'm going to be dropping it there. So that is our agenda. So don't miss what we have tomorrow and on Sunday. Our Twitter space, 10 p.m. tomorrow. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. It is always very, very, very hot. I'm sure of that. So also Saturday is just for general discussion. But right here we are. Tonight I can see every SAFUU is still with us. Bisola Peterson, Crypto Kaba, Benjamin Weld, Qphilos, and Emily. So thank you so much, everyone. Tune up, and I appreciate everyone coming up every day for us to have this learning. For us to go on this learning journey together. So this is where we're going to be wrapping it up. Today is Friday. Chill out with your friend, have fun, enjoy yourself. You've been working so hard, so create that little time. If you want to go watch movie. If you have that movie you are here to watch, just do it. If you have that game you want to play it. If you just want to go out with your friend, do it. You have your time. So enjoy, everyone. Crypto Kaba, thanks to you one more time. So this is going to be the end. You are going to be seeing this recorded video on our YouTube channel. Do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. React on our videos. You can like it and then comment on it as well. Invite your friends to SafuLane. And if you want to do that, you can request for an invite link because it is a private group. You can you can request for an invite link, and we're going to be giving it to you. We intentionally make it a private group so that people of interest, like mine, are the people who are going to be, working together. So, and also you can check on our Telegram channel if you are interested more in trading and earning from trading. You are going to be seeing a lot of trade signal being dropped there. And trust me, our signal is always, to some extent, it has been very, very accurate. So journey with us, and if you are new to SafuLane, we welcome everyone, and just try to interact in the community, drop your message. It is a community whereby we are all free. So there is every one of us are learning. So welcome as a SAFUU OG. All right, we're going to be ending it here tonight. Thank you everyone for joining and staying, tuning to us. So we catch up tomorrow again. So good night. Bye.